Hey guys, it is Phillip from PR Moves. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over all of the franchise tag deadline players and how they could impact the rest of the NFL moving forward. Now the franchise tag did finish up yesterday, and there were just about a dozen players tagged by their respective teams. A few of them that really kind of pissed off some of the fans of teams like Baltimore who wanted a big name receiver. But we're gonna go over basically every single franchise tag here, some more in depth than others, but let's get into it just from the start. The first player to officially be franchise tag is Justin Simmons, the safety from Denver. He was franchise tagged last season. He's arguably a top 5 safety in the league when healthy, and he puts in work for that Denver defense. He's arguably the best player on that Denver defense now with Von Miller regressing. And it's just straight disrespectful. The only problem I have with the franchise tag is when it's used over and over and over again. I think that's straight up disrespectful to the player. I think you should only be able to use the franchise tag on a specific player once. But Denver tagging Justin Simmons denies some teams like Detroit, like the Jets, like the Dolphins, who were looking for some safety help. That's a pretty big franchise tag there. The second player to be franchise tagged was another safety, Marcus May. Drafted in 2016. Alongside Jamal Adams. He's been kind of his partner in crime. This was his first season really by himself. And, he has 6 career interceptions. He has 22 defended passes, 4 forced fumbles in 4 seasons. Even has 2.5 sacks. He had the infamous butt interception this season. I think he's a pretty solid player. I actually think that they could have probably let him walk. But I think Robert Saleh wants Marcus May back to be that long-rangey safety for when he takes over running that defense. The third player to get franchise tagged was Taylor Moton, the tackle in Carolina. Moton was coming off of an injury and was finally given another chance to start by Carolina, and he was spectacular. He only committed 1 penalty and only allowed 3 sacks on over 1,000 snaps. So Moton is an excellent tackle, and there was a lot of teams that were really interested in Moton, including Chicago, so it kind of sucks that the Panthers threw the franchise tag on him, but good for him. He's finally getting some of that recognition after an injury. For the second consecutive season, the New York Giants have placed the franchise tag on defensive tackle Leonard Williams. Of course, they traded for him in the middle of the 2019 season, and in 2 seasons with the Giants, he's had over 15 sacks, 11.5 this past year, which was his career high. He was up there with Aaron Donald and Chris Jones in terms of pressure rate, and he anchors a spectacular Giants defense. Not really much to talk about here. I expected this move. I don't think a lot of teams are really interested. I mean, of course you're going to be interested in Leonard Williams. It was just, I don't think that market was huge. I think there was a very specific set of teams that was looking for him. The Washington football team threw the franchise tag again on Brandon Sheriff for the second consecutive year. He made $15 million in 2020, and he'll be making $18 million this year. Sheriff was a first-time All-Pro this year, which was excellent. He played very well defending Alex Smith. They had a very good connection. And Brandon Sheriff was actually someone that teams like Miami and Cincinnati were going to look at to try to protect their young franchise quarterbacks. So actually a pretty smart move by Washington. With the cap strapped year, re-sign your best offensive lineman. Solid decision by them. Sorry about that. In a little bit of surprise, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers locked up wide receiver Chris Godwin. Now, it was going to be between, they have a lot of free agents, Shaq Barrett, Antonio Brown, Levante David, who was a free agent, but just signed a 2-year, $25 million contract. So they wanted to lock up one of them, at least for the short term, and Godwin, who's expected to make around $17 million a year. And while he didn't have the greatest year last year because he played only, I believe, 11 or 12 games, he still had 840 yards and 7 touchdowns. And he had 232 yards as well as a postseason touchdown and a huge clutch catch against the Packers. This is a great move by Tampa, especially since they locked up their leader on defense later in the day. We only got 2 more left. Let's quickly run through them. Let's talk Cam Robinson, the offensive tackle. Robinson isn't an excellent tackle. He played around 1,000 snaps at left tackle in 2020. He was a average graded pass defender. He's a pretty solid run defender, but I guess they want some stability when bringing in a new franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. So that's likely the reasoning for that. Finally, we got Bears receiver Allen Robinson. This was the big news of the day. This is the one that really rustled a few people's jimmies. He was likely the number 1 wide receiver in free agency, and they said no. They franchise tagged him, and I believe it is because Ryan Pace is trying to figure out what to do at the quarterback position. I think once they figure out what to do with the quarterback position, they will probably sign Robinson to a long-term deal. I don't think this is a very unfair signing. I think franchise tagging people for 2 or 3 years is far more unfair than for 1 year where he's going to be paid $18 million. So hopefully before July 15th he's extended and will be Chicago's wide receiver for years to come, but we can't really talk too much about it before then. Now we're going to go over some players who did not receive the franchise tag but could have. The first one is Packers running back Aaron Jones. Now, I already talked about Aaron Jones in a previous video, a video that you guys blew up, so I really appreciate that. But Aaron Jones was expected to be franchise tagged after they said they weren't going to re-sign Corey Linsley. So a franchise tag would have made him the 3rd highest paid running back in the league, around $13 million. And I think that's around what he wants. Apparently the Packers have offered him a contract that will pay him over $9 million a year, but that's yet to be completely confirmed by anyone within the Packers organization. So as of right now, that's what we're looking at. Also, we have Lions wide receiver Kenny Galladay and Steelers wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. Both were expected to receive some form of the franchise tag, whether that was through the transition tag or such. None of them were given that tag, and which means both of them will hit the open market. Both will be big-name commodities for teams looking for a big-name receiver, like the Jets or the Ravens or the Dolphins. One more big name that was not franchise tagged was, of course, Corey Linsley. I already mentioned him. He was an All-Pro for the first time in 2020. Only allowed 1 sack and like a 0.2% pressure rate. And after saying that they weren't going to re-sign him, many expected them to be slapping the franchise tag on him, which will not be happening. So Corey Linsley will hit the open market. Alright, NFL fans and Bears fans alike, be sure to check in on my channel. When free agency starts, I'll be doing daily free agency breakdowns and what it means for teams overall. I really appreciate your guys' support, and I'll check on you guys all next time. Thank you, and I'll talk to you later.